Now, just to carry on with this idea of improving your vocabulary. So we talked about this in the previous slide, about how important it is to find something that you're interested in, so a topic that you are interested in, and use that to make sure that you keep interested in learning English and in, of course, increasing your vocabulary so that we know how to demonstrate that vocabulary in the upcoming exam. Now, this could, of course, be through the writing exam, the speaking exam, the reading exam, and even the listening exam. Well, what do you do? I mean, there are so many words in the English language. There are hundreds of thousands of words in the English language. You're not going to know all of them. So when you show up to the exam, you're not going to know all of the words in the exam. That's fine. That's for everybody. Even native standard speakers with PhDs in English, I'm sure there will be maybe one word or two in the exam that they forgot or that they just never learned about. Well, what you can do is use context in order to decipher what the word means. Now, in the exam, remember, you're not allowed to bring in a dictionary or anything like that. So you won't be able to, if there's a word that you don't understand, well, it might negatively affect your exam performance. But there are tools that you can use to make sure that you don't fall into this trap. So in the real exam, and of course when you are preparing for the real exam, what you're going to do is when you are reading through, maybe you're interested in travel, as we saw in the previous slide. Well, when you're looking through a National Geographic article or a travel magazine article, and you find a new word that you don't know the meaning of, that's fine. Underline it, keep moving, keep reading. Now, what this is going to do is help you to be able to understand this word from the context of the word. And what this is going to do, of course, is help you for the IELTS exam, because this is really exactly what you have to do in the real IELTS exam. Now, there are 5 techniques that we're going to discuss to make sure that you can do this. And you're going to start practicing this really right away. All right, so how we can decipher what these words mean by using context clues in the IELTS exam. Well, the first option that we can use is simply seeking a definition of that word. So we'll talk about beekeeping again. And let's say the person doesn't understand what the word endurance means. All right, so we have the article that says beekeeping requires endurance. Beekeepers maintain a high level of work over the course of long hours. All right, so we can see that the next sentence actually gives us the definition of endurance. And we didn't need to look in a dictionary to know what that means. We didn't need to use a translator, which you should never use, but we didn't need to use a translator or anything like that to find out what that means. Instead, we simply understand that through the context of what they give us in the article, well, they gave us a definition, really, of endurance. A synonym. So remember, a synonym is simply another way of saying, or another word that means the same word. Okay, so endurance. Now we can see that in this one here, we have the exact same sentence. And let's say we're in the exact same situation where we don't understand what endurance means. Well, we continue on. And so we underline that word, we continue on. It is similar to the work that athletes do because they need to persevere in this physically demanding job. So endurance and persevere. So it would be perseverance because that would be the noun. But we know that those are synonyms just from looking at the context of this. Now another way is to look at an antonym. So remember, an antonym means the opposite of the word. And in this, so we have the exact same sentence that we looked at before. Beekeeping requires endurance. It's not the kind of job where people can relax or take breaks. So really, we know that they're giving us the hint over here in the next sentence. And in the real exam, it might be the next sentence. It might be maybe a sentence after that. So it might be 2 sentences later. But it's really important for us to, again, take a look through the article and try to find what this word means in the article instead of trying to decipher what it means on its own, because they're always going to give you, you're going to have words that you don't understand in the exam, but the tools are there for you to understand what the word means, and so you don't have to waste time, and you can again be sure about the answers that you are providing in the exam. Examples. So really all of these are examples in some sense anyways, but we can see over here, so they have beekeeping requires endurance, and again, people who work in this job have a lot of stamina, so they can change the hives, gather the honey, and make sure the bees are healthy. All right, so we can see a lot of stamina. Maybe we would consider this to be a synonym of endurance, but they're giving us some examples as well of what this endurance is needed for, and that is of course the physical labor really in there, and of course the mental aspects which involve making sure the bees are healthy. So from those examples we can understand exactly what endurance means. And finally, inference. Now in this case here, we can see that they're giving us something at the beginning of the sentence, at the sentence before the beekeeping one. So we can see over here it says, if you aren't able to work and concentrate for a long time, this job isn't a good idea for you. Beekeeping requires endurance. All right, so that is the final tip for you, is that in some cases you might have the example, the synonym, the antonym before the actual sentence with the word. But what we need to do is, of course, not get stuck on this one word that we might not understand, because the tools are there for you to understand this word, but you have to know what you're looking for. So these are the 5 areas that you would look for to make sure that you know, well, you get an idea really of what the word means. You might not be 100% sure about what the word means, even if you have all of these tools in front of you, but that's okay, because even if you're 80% there, that's exactly what you need. And remember what we talked about, where you're not going to have these beautiful, perfect answers. This is exactly where that notion becomes reality. That's because in the exam, well, you might have some words where you're 80% sure about what the word means, but you still have to answer the question. And with the question, if you're 80% sure about the answer to a question, that's perfectly fine. We need to answer that and move on. Remember, we'll have time at the end to review those questions once more.